everybody's staying. That is great. Nothing better to do. Who said that? Nothing better to do. Well, I hope you guys learned a bunch about Corbin. He's a very interesting character, and he fishes some different things, man. He pioneered a lot of stuff out there, so that's pretty cool. Glad you guys sat in on that. And we are live with YouTube, and thanks everybody for joining. My name is Mike Acord, and I'm one of the owners here at Susquehanna Fishing Tackle. And we're doing Smallmouth Saturday. We've got a great big crowd of people out here. We are really happy to see everybody here, psyched up for some smallmouth fishing. We started out in the morning. We talked about winter into the pre-spawn, and then Corbin took over and he went from pre-spawn right on through to the spawn, post-spawn, and then my seminar today is called Summer Lovin', which is you know, my favorite time of the year to fish. I love it. You know, you're warm. You're warm. Thanks, Sammy. You're definitely warm, and you know things just, you know, it's just a fun time of year to be out there. You can sneak out a few hours in the morning or a few hours in the evening, or do an all-day event and have some great success catching smallies. The fish are very aggressive, and it's just a fun time of year to be out there. Pretty much everybody can catch fish in the Susquehanna in the summer. You know, there's a lot of fish out there. Our river has really came full circle now in the last couple of years, and we have a full range of fish from 6 inches all the way up through to 4 pounds and even a 5-pounder here and there. So it's not really that hard to pick up a swim bait and go out in the summertime, drift down the middle of the river and catch a smallmouth. You know, a lot of small ones like that, or you know, 12 inchers. I call them Action Jacksons, which are a lot of fun to catch. You know, the 10 to 13 inchers. So you can pretty much catch those all the time. But what we want to do is we want to really get down and start indulging in where are these big fish. You know, where are the schools, and where are these fish going, and what are they doing in the summertime? Right after post spawn, they're done being all funky. You know, they miserable from the spawn, had a really bad time getting through that. They started feeding up, they started gaining their energy, and now they're really getting jazzed up. Things are starting to get pretty good. You got the dance thing going on, you know, so they start getting to where they're ready to chase, they're ready to feed, they're ready to go through the rest of the year, and that's where I'm going to pick up right there. So location is the biggest thing. Every time people come in here and they say, man, what are you catching them on? Well, I'm catching them on this, I'm catching them on that, and doing this, I'm doing that. And people go out and they try that, and they maybe catch a few fish, but they're not really having success because they didn't really pick up on the other part of the statement, which was catching them on this, on ledges, or we're catching them on flats, or we're catching them on this. So I'm going to go over on the board here exactly what a ledge is, exactly what a flat is, where the water tails out, where the water comes in, and we're going to talk about specific types of cover. Now those guys I'm sure touched on the grass beds. We're also going to talk about the grass beds, but how they pertain to the summertime. Last year was not a typical summer, so I'm not even going to talk about this past summer. I will say this: I caught more fish last summer than I did any other summer that I ever fished, and it was kind of weird to say that, but the fish were really in. You know, you heard the statement, shooting a fish in the barrel. Well, that's what we had last year. We had fish that were so pushed into corners because of all the high water that when you caught them, you caught hundreds of them. And I mean, it was crazy. Last year wasn't how many days over 100 we caught, but it was more how many days under 100 did we have. You know, that's the way that was last year. But that's not normal. It's not typical river fishing. It was just something that happened, and the guys who went out, some of it was safe, some of it wasn't safe. That's why we didn't really push guys to go on the river, because a lot of it we were fishing in, you know, 9 to 14 foot of water. You know, we were fishing those types of ranges, and I didn't really want to tell people to go out in that type of water and fish in 14-foot river with raging currents and big giant trees rolling down the river. So I kind of kept it on a down low, only for the safety reasons. But when it did drop into this 8 and 7, I did talk about it. you know, and the only thing I'm going to touch on there is creeks, 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 creeks. That's all you had to do is just run as many creeks as in any stretch of the river, wherever you wanted to fish, from the Conowinga Dam all the way up to through Sunbury, up the other side of Sunbury. All you had to do was fish the creeks, and that's where they were. They got pushed in there really thick. The bait went in there, and then right behind it went all the smallies. And because it was so high for so long, we figured out, which a lot of guys didn't, that the fish went all the way to the backs of the creeks, up where the rapid starts. So they went deeper than they normally do. You guys heard us talk about creeks and fishing the mouths of the creeks a lot. We talked about it in here, even in the summertime. We talked about it all the time. But this year they went deep in the creeks, like way back. And I got video of us going over logs to get back into some of this stuff with Corbin. You know, we were four-wheel driving over logs to get way back up in these creeks, and it was pretty cool fishing. So if that happens again, come see me. We'll talk about it. I hope it doesn't happen this summer, because I did not have a topwater bite hardly at all. We did catch some fish on topwaters in those creeks, but this is what summer's all about, is what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to get right on that right now. So one of the things that happens to these fish is they do start to scatter a little bit, and by that I mean they're not all in like one area for spawning. They start to, after the spawn, they go out and they start to scatter, and they really scatter up big time right in that mid-June to the end of June. But right at the end of June, they'll start to stack up, and you'll start getting schools of fish. And one of the key areas you want to fish, which is a couple of them, but one of the key areas is you want to fish the ledges. Now, I'm sure these guys talk about ledges, but this is summertime ledge fishing. So the ledges that we want to fish are, of course, ledges that go across the river, okay? And you have, matter of fact, I'm going to slide down a little bit because I want to talk about the front of them. So you have a ledge that comes across the river off the bank right here. And you might have a little break there, and you might have a little piece, and another little break, and you might have a little piece. And you might have the big. This will be the middle of the river. Yeah, everywhere. It's all over the river. The Susquehanna River is loaded with these ledges. And then below it, you might have another one. Like that. This is basically what you're seeing on the surface, is a riffling effect on the surface. So the water depth behind these is going to be about 5 feet on the good ones. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the good ledges that have a little deeper water behind them. It's going to be about 5 feet. On the front side, here you're going to have about 3 feet. And then this is going to be your 0 to 1 foot. So this is what you run into when you're drifting down the river. You know, you smash your boat up on this stuff right here. So you might have, you know, 3, 4, 2, you might have a rock pile or something, and you might have, you know, 5 feet hole in there, maybe back up to 3, and it's very, you know, very up and downy in here. And then you hit another, the other ledge here. And the same thing here, 4, and it might go up to 3. You might run 3 for a while, and then you might go to maybe a small spot of 4, and then you'll start tailing back up, coming up out of the pool, up to the next ledge, and then 5 feet behind it. Okay? So you're coming down the river, and you're going very much with a pattern of down, up, down, and then up, and then down. You see how that's going? Everybody kind of knows ledges. I just wanted to specify that, okay? So what we're looking for is we're looking for 2 things on a ledge. We're looking for the deeper water behind the ledge. We're looking for the breaks in the ledge, which is very important. The breaks in the ledge. And we're looking for where it comes back up out of that deep pocket, okay? And then the other thing we're looking for is the front side of the ledge, and how to fish the front side, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. So what happens is the fish get on these ledges, and at certain times of the day, I'm going to go over here.
Which way is the river flow?
River flow is in this direction. Okay? So what happens here is there's days where the fish will get on the front side of the ledge here. So that's where it's tailing up like this, coming up out of the deeper water and tailing up to the ledge like that. That face is a very key area to fish. Okay? And on the back side, it's where it goes over, creates the turbulence, and dug it out a little bit deeper, and then washes up out of a deeper pocket. So it drops down, comes out and washes out. And right against the base of it, you have a total eddy pocket, which is zero current whatsoever. There's nothing. It's a dead pocket right behind here. And there's days where they're going to lay nose into the ledge. Okay? And then they're also going to be fish where it starts to come back up out of that deep pocket and come back up out of there and start to get on the little changes in the bottom till the next ledge. Okay? This may be 100 yards. Okay? From here to here. It may be 50 yards, it may be 200 yards. Depends on the type of ledges, you know, that you're fishing. So boat position is everything when it comes to this type of fishing. You've got to be on you learn how to control your boat. So that means standing on that trolling motor and really working the boat, because on the ledges that come to this point right here, where the tail of the fish is here and it's coming up on the face, your boat is going to be, this is going to be a pretty crude boat drawing here. Okay, it's kind of bad. This is where George hit the bottom, right over here. Okay.
In your boat.
Huh?
In your boat.
In my boat. My boat, he dings it up, yeah.
Twice.
So you have, this is your boat control right here. So one way of fishing it is keeping your motor just above the ledge and casting back on it like this. Okay? So that's one way of fishing it. And the biggest problem is just standing on that trolling motor. I mean, you know, the biggest thing I see people do is they hit the trolling motor and then they turn and fish for a while. You know, well, your boat, it's constantly getting pushed, and it's constantly getting pushed back. So once you establish where the ledge is and you get on top of it, it's hard to see it then. So you got to really pay attention to what's going on. So a lot of times I like to mark the bank. It's a lot of work to do this, but the payoff is unbelievable. If they get on the front side of this ledge right here, they're going to be stacked on there, and all you're doing is you're moving in this direction, or you're moving in this direction, and you're sliding across the current with the boat. Understand that? Very important. Boat control is everything in this type of fishing right here.
Is that where spot lock would come in handy?
Absolutely. Spot lock revolutionized everything. I mean, you know, if I throw back in here and I catch a fish right here, I just go up and hit my spot lock. And now the boat will hold there, and I can really dissect that thing without having to turn and hit that anymore.
I just think that's
And you could jog left and right.
Well, you can jog left and right if you're sophisticated with that type of a setup. You can set it up on your GPS and just have it do it for you. But I haven't really had the situations with the spot lock yet, because last year the river was a monster feat. I just got my spot lock, you know, this year. So I got a full year of fishing in it, but I never really had the summertime with it because it was so high.
Yeah.
But there's other times where I used it in a situation, just set on there. But it's gonna revolutionize this type of fishing, because you can, once you establish your spot, you can spot lock on it, fish it out, slide over, spot lock again, fish it out, slide over, keep sliding over, catch a fish, spot lock, fish that area. Because usually when you catch one, you're going to catch two or three. Okay, this isn't type of fishing where you're going to catch 30 fish off of one drop. You know what I mean? You're going to catch a fish here, a fish there, a fish here, a fish here, you know, and then you might have to go all the way over here till you start catching them again, way over here. So you might catch 4 or 5, and this is, you know, and they like this for a reason, usually because it's the right way the water comes up on it. And it may have the chunk rock on the face of it as opposed to a smooth bottom on the face of it. It's all like little things you got to pay attention to when you're fishing. But this may have chunk rock in here, and you might catch 3 or 4 fish right there, and then you're wondering why you didn't catch anything else all the way out across that ledge. I mean, I've spent a lot of time, like 100 yards sliding across a ledge, 100 yards, not catching a fish. Boom, in a 10-yard or 20-yard piece of ledge, catch 5. You know what I mean? So why are they there? Usually it's a bottom change or it's a current flow change. So the other part of this that you really want to pay attention to is these breakthroughs. And this is where the water is coming through. Okay? And this is probably 4 feet of water deep. That's where you usually run your boat. Coming up through there, you're looking for them little V's in the water, and you run your boat up through there. Well, That's what this is right here. These corners right here are your main. This is like the sweet spot. You know, this is that sweet spot where that big fish is going to be. He's going to be your biggest fish are going to come off those corners right there. This is where you're going to catch your 4 and 5 pounders on those corners, because they're getting everything funneled into that. It's a natural funnel for them. Okay. So you have a dead pocket here, and you have a dead pocket on the bottom and the front of that. So that's why those fish are there. So this is the dead pocket, and this is where those big fish are going to be, right on the edge of that corner where the dead pocket and the actual current kind of meets. So he's getting bait pulled in this way. This fish is getting bait pulled in that way. Plus they're getting bait pulled straight ahead, and they can slide out to grab and pull back in. So that's fishing the upside of it. The bottom side down here, your boat position is going to be a lot different. You're going to keep your nose of your boat with your trolling motor just on this side of the. Okay, so every now and then your trolling motor will actually go up and butt the ledge. All right, and you're working across the ledge in this fashion. Okay, and now you're casting in this direction. Up on top, this guy's probably cast up like this, and you're trying to get straight down the side of that. Okay, that's why your boat's got to be here, because you got to get that thing to fall straight down. A lot of times you got a little bit of current coming over here. When the current hits it, it'll push it back, and you won't hit the bottom until back here. And that's, you just went over top of all your fish. Understand that? So what do you have to do that? Well, when you guys come in here and you say, wait, what weight jig head are you using? Well, I say, well, today I'm using 1/8, but tomorrow I could be using a 1/4. And the reason for that is because I do carry them right here. I carry the big 1/4s, and I have 3/8 somewhere. I've got 3/8 that I don't use too often, but I have my 1/4 ounce tube head and my 3/8 tube head, and that's what I have rigged up in the dead of summer. But that's just to get it to fall directly down the back side of that straight without having it float too far. Because I'm telling you, man, this fish will nose right up to that. And if you don't get right on their nose, you just don't get bit. You don't think the ledges are working. So you got to make sure when you're working the ledges is work the front side of them, back into them like this, and the back side of them, straight down on the bottom, straight off of that ledge, straight down there on that ledge, and then let it wash out. But you got to make sure you get straight down the side of that, on the back of it. And then you have to also make sure you hit all your corners, because your corners become really good again right here on the bottom side, and these again are your sweet spots on the ledge because of the current. All right, so I always make sure I try to hit those and really pay attention to where they're at. Some of them are subtle, where you can't get a boat through. Some of them are big, where they can get a boat through. So there's big ones and there's little ones, and it's very important to pay attention to that. So in my mind, I'm looking at Middletown from the Turnpike Bridge down to Hill Island. Now, that's just the one section because it's got the ledges all the way down through there, you know, all the way down, and it's bank to middle is over 200 yards. Okay, so that's what this is, bank to middle out in here. And I always look at the east side and the west side differently. The west side being my primary side, and the east side is like my secondary choice, you know, for picking.
Ledges on these.
Huh?
Not too many ledges on these.
Up there, there's very few ledges, but there's the ledges that are there are subtle, and they're really good, you know. So the west side is where you're going to catch a lot of your fish. It may be out in the middle, but it's just there's more ledges over here on that side. Everybody fishes up around Fort Hunter. Those areas, you got ledges like up around the statue. You got really nice ledges there. But then when you get down below the Rockville ledge, you got very few. You got a little section stacked up in there, and then the rest of the way down, it's very few. There's some, and you got to look for them, but you know there's very few. So
North Branch is loaded with them.
North Branch has a lot of ledges, you know. So there's different places in ledges, and that's why I like to talk about ledges and kind of get involved with those. Now, what are we throwing here? So now the fish they're there. Of course, they're going to eat crayfish all year long. So crayfish baits are going to be something you're going to want to throw. And for me, I like to throw, Corbin has them rigged up here. I like to throw just a straight up tube on the back side of those ledges. I just fish a straight up tube. Not so much the 2.5 inch size, but I start to go to the 3.5 inch size in that time of year. Bait fish is growing up a little bit, you know, and they're kind of keying in on that. So I'll get away from the 2.5 and I'll go 3 inch. A lot of guys will stay 2.5 all year long. That's fine. You'll catch a lot of fish on it. You don't have to change up if you don't want to. But the 2.5 is going to be your main player in that type of fishing. But there again, you got to have all the different size jig heads to cover all those situations. The 1/8 ounce and the 3/16 I'll throw up here if I know that I want to just have it drift and I'm even catching fish off the back of them, more off the back of them. Or the 1/8 ounce and the 3/16 I can fish on the front of them a lot better because it's only 3 foot of water and I don't need as much weight to drop into the 5 or 6 foot. Okay, so I'm fishing a lot of 1/8 and 3/16 up here. And I'm fishing 1/4 and 3/8, and then if I wanted to sweep, then I'll use my 1/8 and 3/16 right in there.
Do you find the front of the ledge or the back of the ledge more productive?
And that's why I'm showing you both, because you know you can go up there on a Wednesday and pound them on the front of that ledge, and then go up there Thursday afternoon or Thursday, go back up on Thursday, and there's nothing to be found there. Those fish move, and the ones on the back of the ledge become active. You know, it just depends. You have to fish both sides to find out. Very important.
Shenandoah a lot, and I've experienced the same thing.
It changes all the time. River fishing is something you guys will figure out. It's constantly changing. You're always changing up, and you're always moving, trying different things. This is one type of structure pattern for summertime fishing. It's one that I really want you guys to pay attention to. So the other thing that we throw on there, and this is important, is we throw the Zoom Super Fluke. This will become one of your staple baits that you should have tied on from the end of June all the way through till George starts talking in October. He's even going to throw these in October and in the first part of November if the water temperature holds out.
It already is for me.
Huh?
Already is for me.
Yeah. I mean, this is it. This thing right here for me catches so many fish. It is absolutely ridiculous what this thing does on the river. And it's been like that for 10 years that I've been throwing it. This is a bait that you can throw back onto the ledge. You can throw this back onto the ledge, and you can twitch, 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 and pause, and let it sink a little bit. Twitch, 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 pause. Let it sink a little bit. Twitch, 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 pause. So what you can do is throw right on top of that, and you can twitch, twitch it out a little bit, let it sink, and then wash back up on that thing. So it's right in your face all the time. You're just kind of throwing back on yourself. You're in the boat like this, standing on your trolling motor. You're throwing back on yourself. You're twitch, twitch, pause. Twitch, twitch, pause. You don't have to reel a lot because this current will suck it back. You kind of just walk it right across the front of that thing. And I'm telling you, man, they jump all over it big time. When you slide back to this position here, you're throwing right up on the front of it, and you're twitching it over top that ledge. And that's when the fish are real high on that ledge. They'll just shoot up out of the bottom and come up and grab it. And that'll be right up on this part here. But you can fish the fronts and the backs with that bait right there. And that fluke is absolutely extraordinary. Couple of ways to hook it. The way that I do it is with an extra wide gap Gamakatsu 3.0. I fish a extra wide gap, kind of makes it weedless, kind of makes it rock resistant, doesn't hang up. If I'm really dead sticking it where I want to jerk and pause, let it sink real deep in the water, I don't have to worry about the point of the hook getting hung up because it's laying right across the back of the bait. So we'll put a 3.0. I don't know if I have one in my box here, but it's a 3.0 extra wide gap, and I can show you guys out front there. Put that in there, twitch, twitch, pause, twitch, twitch, pause. The time between the twitches is your cadence. That's the speed in which you're going to work it. You see those guys on TV, man, they're with their jerk baits. You know, they're just working that thing real hard. Well, they're fishing in a lot of that warmer water. So this one here, don't be afraid to work it pretty fast, but you want a little bit of fall on this, so it's twitch, 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 twitch. You know, that type of thing, because you want to get it to fall a little bit on that. So
No weight, Mike?
what's that? No weight. No weight at all, just the weight of the hook.
See, I use a 4.0. Is that too big for that?
That's fine. Yeah, that's just my personal preference. You don't want to get real far back into the body. If you can get back in, you know, from where my hook comes out right there, if you can get back in a little bit far, that's fine. I have no problem with that. Plus, that adds a little bit of weight. I don't want to get really crazy on you here.
Yeah, I use Trocar for it because they're heavy.
Yeah, that's a good hook. I like a thin wire hook because I'm using light line, 8-pound test. So I like a thin wire, not a flipping, not a heavy, not the heavy versions, the heavy wire version, because you're only using 8-pound test. You know, so we want to make sure we get the hooks stuck. So we want a thin wire hook. That's why I use the regular Gamakatsu EWG, not the EWG super line, not the super line, but the regular one. That's a thinner wire hook. You're gonna get the hook set a lot better. Because I'm telling you, a lot of it's, and you go to bull again, and there's a fish on there. You don't feel the hit. A lot of times you don't feel the hit. It's just all of a sudden there they are, you know. So that you want to be able to get the hook set with that thin wire hook. So that's very important for me.
Are the G-locks too light?
No, G-lock's fine. G-locks is a thin wire hook. The thing about a G-lock that kind of worries me a little bit is it comes back and it comes back on itself real hard. So the point digs into the plastic a little more. You do miss a lot of fish on this technique. Okay, so the G-lock, I think you can lose a little bit more. So that's why I kind of, but I even, if I'm open water fishing, I'm not getting near the bottom, I'll bend my hook wire. I'll bend it up just a little bit to get a little bit more bite on it. And my hookup ratio will increase. So I'll take and tweak the hook with a pair of pliers, just bend it up a little bit so the point's just a little bit up instead of it facing down into the plastic. And then my hookup ratio will go up for you. If you guys are missing a lot of fish, set the hook, it's like, oh, there's one, he jumps and there goes the bait that way and the fish goes that way, and it happens like 2, 3 in a row. Bend up that hook a little bit. That'll fix that problem. You know, well, I won't fix it, but instead of 10 of them that day, you're only going to have 2 jump off. You know, you're going to get the other ones. So mess around with that a little bit with bending that wire, that hook wire.
Do you have a certain
Do you
color?
carry them hooks here?
I got all those hooks out there. Absolutely.
Do you have a certain color fluke you prefer?
I don't care. I don't care what color you throw as long as it's white. So, now to be honest with you, I fish 90%, 95% of the time I fish with white, and then I fish the pink.
What about the difference in tails? Is it the smaller super fluke that has like the paddle tail?
No, that's a swimming super fluke. That's different.
Super fluke, okay.
We want the fluke type bait. Now, whether it has a split tail like this or it has a straight tail, I don't care. You know, I use Zoom. It's nothing more than that's just what I grew up with. I grew up with Zoom. I have Berkeley's, which is a great bait. I have Strike Kings, which is a great bait. You know, I have I catch fish on all of them, but this is just that's just the one I fish is the Zoom, the Super Fluke, because I have complete and total confidence with it. Whether it's the weight and how it falls and my timing, the way I fish it. You know, I've been fishing it so long, I know how to time it out. I know what the sink rate is. Yes, sir.
Do you prefer the fluke tail over a club tail that time of the year?
Yes. Well, for this technique, yes. I want the complete darting action. So the fluke tail gives you the walk the dog type of action, which we're going to talk about walking the dog a lot here. That's a great summertime action. Whereas with the paddle tail, it's more of the body roll straight at you. Great in the summer also, but it's a totally different reaction bite. This is a big time reaction bite. You know, this type of thing is totally different than a paddle tail that comes straight at you, you know, and have the body wobble.
So I'm throwing a fluke on either side when I'm fishing below the
Yep.
ledge. But when I go into that channel for the bigger fish,
Yep.
I go over to a club tail. So now it looks more, in my opinion, it looks more like a fish that just got swept down.
Swimming down through there. Absolutely. Great idea.
And I've caught some, 4-pounders.
That's where you get them. Yeah, this is a key spot right here. It's really, and it's tricky to get a bait down in there. So putting a club tail with a jig head, you're going to get down through bust through that current and get to where those fish are. So that's a good idea. That's a real good idea.
Hey, Mike,
Yes.
how concerned are you if you pull one out and the tail's not straight, shaft of it's not straight, it's all wobbly?
Okay. Well, I'm not going to answer that question.
Be honest.
Be honest, Mike. Be honest, Mike.
All right, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I have to have my tail straight. I am freaky about that. I go through a bunch of packs so that when I get them, they're sitting. When I buy them, they're straight in the pack. All right. It's just me. I got a problem. Okay. I do admit that straight up. My brother, if my brother was in here, he would just be shaking his head right now because I'm telling you, man, I go through an absolute boatload of these things when I fish them. I mean,
The ones on the rack are the ones with the curled up?
they're all curled. So you guys, when they come in, I already went through all of them.
You know, Mike, all you have to do is lay them out in the deck in the sun for a little bit and they straighten right
I'm
out.
sure that works. It doesn't work for Mikey in the head right here, okay? I can just tell you that much. That's a good question though, because, yes, sir.
Rod reel setup for the fluke?
All right, I do all my fluke fishing on a spinning rod. I use 6 foot 8 inch, 3 power. So that's a medium heavy. All right. Now it's not really a true medium heavy. It still has enough tip. So I'm going to use a medium/medium heavy. Okay. So and I just like the 6/8. You know, I think I can work it better. But there's you can use a 7/1 medium. And that seems to work good. But in the 6/8, I like the medium heavy over the medium. Seems to get my hook set a little better. Some guys like a longer rod. Nice thing about a longer rod when you're fishing this is you can make a longer cast. But then again, the longer the cast you make, don't forget what's going to happen. You're going to lose a lot more fish. You know, because I don't fish this on braid. I fish this on either straight copolymer or monofilament or fluorocarbon. Depends on the situation. When do I use fluorocarbon? When do I use fluorocarbon? I use fluorocarbon when I'm fishing a deeper side or deeper water. Okay, so for instance, the airport's over here. Okay, has a lot of gravel on that side of the river. There's a couple of ledges, but they're real subtle. You know, that you gotta really, you can see them at super low water, so I know where they're all at. Whether I hit them or not, my brother sure did. We can find all those ledges. I found them over the years by drifting over them with my graph. I've graphed them, and they're much more subtle over there. So we need to get the bait down a little deeper. So whenever I want to get the bait down a little deeper, I go with fluorocarbon. 8-pound test fluorocarbon sinks faster. Remember this, guys. 8-pound test fluorocarbon sinks faster than monofilament or copolymer. The fluorocarbon sinks, so it's going to get down a little deeper for you. And there's days where if you're not throwing fluorocarbon, you're not catching the fish that you should be catching because you're not getting down to them. Okay? That's very important. So when's the other time I fish fluorocarbon? If it's windy. You're out fishing, you're drifting down through here and it's windy as hell and you're getting a big bend in your line. I like fluorocarbon because it'll suck my line down underneath the water. My line will spend more time down underneath the water. I can be able to fish at the same speed and I'm probably at the same height, but now it's not riding at the very surface where it's every third pop it's coming out of the water. You know, I work mine just under the surface. That's where I like it. So fluorocarbon for me, and where I want to get deeper. Copolymer. I'm a triple fish guy. I fish a lot of monofilament. A lot of you guys know. I fish triple fish, and the monofilament to me on regular conditions is fine. Keeps the bait up out of the rock, so I'm not snagging up all the time, and I can get that real nice jerk out of it and that nice little small subtle fall, which is what you want with the fluke. The other way that they rig it real quick, I'm gonna touch on. I'm not a big fan of it, but Anthony out here that's the way he fishes it. The guy cooking the hot dogs. He nose hooks it, so he goes right through the nose and out the top with a small octopus hook, a number 1 or 1.0 octopus hook, or the finesse round bend drop shot hook, the round bend finesse style, the big circle kind of rounded one, has more gap. He'll fish that in there, but a number 1 or a 1.0 is what he fishes. He fishes nose hook. I can promise you, you're going to hang up a lot more with a nose hook than you will with the way I fish it. You'll spend a lot of time, you know, or driving over to it to get it off. Just because I think as it's falling, it might roll over, and the point just catches the rocks a lot quicker. So I noticed that a lot with that hookup, as opposed to the weedless setup. Okay, spinnerbait. Must throw a spinnerbait on here. Plus it's cool because you can cover the water real quick across the top, lots of cast. Pull the spinnerbait back up this way. As soon as it hits the water, one crank, pop your rod, get that blaze of flash. then reel a little bit and pop the rod. So because you're only dealing with a short piece of water that you're trying to cover. So you want to try to get that trigger as quick as possible. If they're really aggressive, you don't have to pop the rod, but I like to get it out there as soon as it hits the rod, 2 cranks, and then I just snap the rod and get the blades to flutter. That drops it. If you ever watch what happens when you twitch your rod tip with a spinnerbait, it drops. It'll drop 6 inches straight down just by twitching it. So what's happening? You're pulling it off the rocks, you're twitching it twice, it's dropping straight in their face, and just out of a reaction, you're getting those bites. Cool?
What are you
All right.
gonna run in there first, the fluke and then the spinnerbait?
You know, either one. You know, it depends on, you know, we all fish with our favorite things first, right? So, you know, fish with your favorite things first, and then try these other things. You know, that's the thing. You always fish your gut. You know, I fish my gut. I'll fish right here, man, and I'll be catching fish, and I just, you know, I'm not thinking it's the right thing I'm doing. I'll throw everything down. I'll run 10 miles on the river, thinking about something else just to check it. That's just the way I fish. I fish with my gut. And you hear that said all the time throughout everything, but everybody does. You all do. You can't say that you don't, because otherwise, why are you fishing that bait or in that spot? Because your gut's telling you to go there and fish. But if your gut tells you to do something else and you don't make that change, that's the problem. That's where we have to react on that, and that's where I think a good fisherman really becomes better, is making that decision. Because everybody fishes their gut, and I can sit up here and say I fish my gut, and I know you guys do too. You just maybe don't know that you're doing that. That's what you're doing. When you're fishing that spot with that bait on across this ledge, you're saying to yourself, this is gonna work for me, this is what I do. And then I want you to get down this end and say, I remember talking to Mike, listening to his seminar, and he said, zoom, super flukes, and spinnerbaits. Well, I just came across there with a tube, I didn't catch nothing. Let's go back across it. And then you make that gut decision to go back across. You might only go 30 yards and say, well, this freaking fluke doesn't work. I'm gonna get the spinnerbait out, and you might get the spinnerbait going, and then all of a sudden you catch a couple of fish, and hey, I'm putting something together. You see, that's fishing your gut, that's making your changes. And that's what I want you to get from these seminars is, don't fish exactly like me. Fish like you guys fish, but try these things and add it to your arsenal. That's what makes a good fisherman better. All right, we're not great. We're always fighting, trying to learn to be great. So we're always wanting to be better, and that's what we're doing here. So, you know, try this. Pay attention to the water. Pay attention to the breaks. Read the water. This is important. This time of year, you want to read the water. You got to really be visual with a good pair of sunglasses. You want to read this water, see how it's changing. See, you know, let the water tell you what's going on. Go out here. When do you fish this? Well, from getting from here to here, I usually fish that. But more importantly, there's times where if it's cloudy or something, they'll get scattered on this. If it's, you know, threatening rain or windy, man, they'll get out on this right here. This can be really good out in here. So there's a time where finding these little drops in here is going to be a trick. So figure out if they're here, figure out if they're here, try this, but once you start catching them, then you just want to ignore all this. This is a waste of time. If you're catching them on this, you'll catch a couple of fish through here, but if you're catching good ones on this, they're going to be on every one. You just got to keep moving on ledge after ledge after ledge after ledge until, you know, and then you're going to hit one good one. You might hit 3, you hit another really good one, you might hit 3, you hit another good one. But if you fish from here to here, all the way through this whole time, that's 300 yards. I'm already hitting this ledge and that ledge before you even get down to your first ledge. So I've already covered 3 different ledges as the time it took you to cover one ledge. So I found the second or third ledge that's loaded up. You see, just keep moving. Once you establish that pattern, keep changing, keep moving. Run from here, fish this across, run from here down to here, fish this one across the front, fish it across the back, run to the next one, fish across the front, across the back. And then if all these don't pan out, well, then we know that this was a special ledge, and that's going to be something we're going to try to duplicate. Then we might want to go try something else, or go back up to this one and fish this over again. Because that happens. I mean, there's a lot of places where you catch fish on this ledge, and it might be 5 miles down the river till you hit another ledge like that again, or it might be the next ledge. You never know. So just pay attention to that thing and cover more ledges. If you catch them good ones on ledges, cover a lot more ledges. Okay?
Is there a particular water level that this seems to be more prominent than other times?
Absolutely. So the problem is when the water goes above 5.5 feet, this gets really difficult. I'm going to say 5 feet. Let's just say 5 feet. At 5 feet, this gets really, really difficult. For most ledges, the Rockville ledge, you can fish it hard through, what we got, 6.5. 6.5, maybe 7. Okay? But most of this ledge fishing, 5 feet and up, it's really tough. 5 feet to 4 is not a pleasant thing because you're standing on your trolling motor like a madman, and it's a lot harder. So I like it from like 4 feet on down is what I really like it, which is what you're going to usually see in the summertime, right? And because we're not doing this in the spring.
So when you say 5 feet, is that the Harrisburg gauge you're going by?
Yeah, that's a Harrisburg gauge. Yep, that's a Harrisburg gauge. That would be 6 something at Sunbury and down. 6 or 5, I think. But no, it'll be I go there at 8, so it'll be 7 on down. Yeah, 8's kind of R5 down here. Just kind of learn that the gauge up there. I really go, I don't really use that gauge too much. Okay, so we understand the ledge fishing. Anybody have any more questions on ledges? Spinnerbait, Zoom Super Fluke, and a tube. Drop a tube on there.
Mike,
Yes.
what do you, as far as where you're casting to, can you talk a little bit, like, are you trying to hit the top of the ledge and then bringing it to you, let it fall over?
Good question. Good question. So specifically on the top, I want to hit the top of the ledge coming down. I want to make sure I hit the top of the ledge and bring it over top of it and bring it back off of that. That's really, really important to do that. If you hit out front here, they don't seem to, as the bait drops back, isn't as good as it coming over their head. See, we're looking for the reaction. Summertime, we're looking for a reaction bite. We want them to, oh my gosh, just, so that's what we're looking for. Coming over their head this way because they're facing upriver seems to get that. As opposed to that thing, flicking and flicking and drifting back and flicking and flicking and drifting back. That doesn't seem to get them as much as coming over their head. So make sure you hit the top of the ledge and bring it back to you this way. There's times where you can get it to even on the certain ledges, you can even pull it this way. But typically I don't do well with not, there has to be a certain amount of water going, that's everything. There has to be a certain amount of water going over top of that ledge. It can't be just like that far underneath the surface and not have a good volume of water going over. I like to see 6-8 inches of water going over top because that's bringing fish to them. It's not coming down, stopping, and making the bait fish go out to here then to go through there. Okay, you understand that? More like a dam. This is more like a dam. If it's up to the surface, say it's 2 inches below the surface, it's more like a dam. If it's 6 inches below the surface, it's more like a waterfall, and the bait fish can go over without too much problem. So I want to make sure that I have it to where there's a good flow going over top of it. That's the same with grass bed fishing. I don't know if they talked about it. A certain amount of water going through the beds is better than the stagnant ones. They want a little water going through them. Okay, we gotta keep moving here. I don't know what time it is. How you got there, Matt? Did everybody meet Matt? This is Matt. He's the man behind the scene right here. Does all of our website, if everything on the website. This is the guy who does it right here. Nobody ever. Matt, we want to give you a round of applause, man. Thanks so much, Matt. Thanks for being here. Appreciate everything. He does all of our videotaping, and we're getting all involved with that. Thanks for coming today, Matt. Appreciate that. What was I doing? I was showing you something. Time. Okay, we're good. So let's move on. Give a paper towel.
Can we change area a little bit?
What's that?
Like you get down to Columbia where the Route 30 bridge, the 462
Same
bridge,
thing down there, right? Same thing
and,
down there.
rocks.
Columbia. Now, the problem with Columbia is some of those ledges are the dam ledges where the water doesn't go through real good. So you got to watch that real closely there. There's a lot of those ledges that just hold too much water back. So you want to be really, really careful with that. Thank you, brother. So that's something you really want to pay attention to, is where that water comes through. So more towards the middle of the river, or on a higher river towards the bank on the west side. But the middle of the river ledges to me are better than the ones that are just off the bank on west side coming out. But you can do the same exact thing there, all those ledges in there.
Right. Not like with the bridge pilings and then when you get down a little bit more, the big rocks and stuff, there are ways to fish around that then too.
Yeah, that's so the ledges below the bridge pylons, you fish the same way. You can fish, fish all those as current breaks. But if you want to talk about the ledges below the bridge, that's the same thing. They're beautiful ledges down there. Deep water on them, 7-8 foot of water on some of those. Big giant fish on there. The fluke is tremendous down there. I like the very first ledge you come to, as you're coming down in there. Very first ledge comes up beautiful. It comes onto that dam, the old dam that's underneath the water there. That water washes up real nice on that. Makes a really good push on the front of that. Get that nice push. That's why those fish are there. And it makes a really nice push in there, and the Zoom Super Fluke is fantastic on that. Okay? Oh, so let's talk topwater real quick. So, what would you do with a topwater bait? Well, you'd bring a topwater in, and you would fish the topwater on your cast, okay? You asked about the cast. Same thing, topwater on top of the ledge, and you would work it. But on this, it's cool because you can work it like this. On one cast, you can kind of throw out and then work that thing, wop, 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 and you can walk it like this. You see, because you're throwing over here, you're just kind of walking it right over top of their head. Beautiful. It's a great way of doing it. Popper, pop, pop, pop. You can work it on the swing. So it's a downriver swing, which is cool. You're sitting like this, you're throwing back like that, and you're downriver swinging it straight across the river, parallel. Isn't that cool? Pulling that right across there. So look how much time you're in the strike zone. Strike zone, strike zone, strike zone, all the way across there. Really great. On the bottom side, you were asking about the casting. You're going to throw again on top and have it fall down directly if you're trying to get down directly. And then with your topwater baits, it's more bringing them out like this. You're kind of bringing it out and it's kind of washing away. So you're making a lot of shorter casts with the topwater. And you're bringing it along the ledge like this with your boat facing down here. Now your boat's going to be dropped off the ledge a little bit, and you're going to throw the top water like this. And you're going to kind of bring it, I guess it's going to swing like this more. So it's a lot less of the strike zone, so you want to make more casts and stay with a little shorter casts across it. Love top waters on the ledges. I'm going to talk about top waters here next. We get to the next type of structure. So, any more questions on ledges? You got it?
I got a question. So, if you would take your board and just kind of rotate it on like a 90, say you
Yep.
found a ledge that was
Up and down the river?
yeah, would you still approach it?
Man, so there's a couple spots where there's ledges up and down the river. One's right below the Clarks Ferry Bridge. Those ledges run this way. And the only other place I've seen it is up on the North Branch and on maybe one up or two other spots on the Susquehanna where they're running up and down. So they're going to actually have water flowing through them the same exact way. It's not flowing up and down the river. So your ledge, what he said was, if this is the direction of the river, we're not going to change the direction of the river. If the ledge runs up and down the river, so you have the ledge water here, then you have the break, then you have a ledge here like this, then you have a break, and the water is going in this direction. What actually happens is the water comes and it will flow over to the shallower side or the deeper side. So it's actually going to come down and it's going to drop off, and you're going to get currents like this coming across, and then you're going to get a main flow coming down, but it's coming down and going like this. But it's definitely changing directions. That flow, it goes from shallow to deep. That's what's going to happen. So you can actually fish this the same way. Your boat might be out here, okay, throwing in or throwing like that. But you're going to fish it the same exact way. This being the deep side, the side the water's running to, and this being the shallow side where it's running from. Correct? So your fish are going to set facing upriver like that, and they're going to face upriver like that. A tough way of fishing.
Yeah.
It's really weird. But you can catch them on ledges that way just as good as you can catch them on ledges going across the river. That was a great question. Because there's not many places like that on the river. But there is a few of them.
Got a couple below Holtwood Dam.
Yep. Very unique. Okay. Next one, flats. This is flats. Flats are, how do you want to draw this? Okay, so we got a major ledge. Okay? Down here. So this is like tear your boat in half stuff down here. There's only one way to get through, and that was over against the west bank. That's how we ran up in this direction. Okay? All this you can't really run across because it's short ledges in right below it. There's all kinds of ledges going like this. There might be one there where the current comes down, hits that, and goes around it. This kind of crazy stuff that goes like this. So you got these really short ledges, drops real good on the bottom of that, comes down and drops real good. You got an actual elevation change in the river, going from footage, like maybe a 4-foot drop in the river going down over a period of time. Rockville Ledge, big drop from Rockville Dam, not Rockville Ledge, Statue. That's what I'm talking about. Those types of big events, big water events. Well, there's a lot of those on the river. They don't have to be that big, but you want a bigger event. And this is going to be a big flat. It might have grass beds, another grass bed. You might have real shallow water over here. You might have some chunk rock or something over here. But there's really nothing going on. It's just some grass beds, And all of a sudden down in here you start noticing more chunk rock. You might even see some boulders. Isolated boulders kind of sticking out of the water here and there. Okay? But the big thing you're looking for is, instead of gravel bottom, which is what you have all up in the islands, you're looking for chunk rock about this big, or maybe bigger. But it has to be a lot of it, and why? Because this is where all the bait fish is going down, and the crayfish are pulling out of this stuff when the water gets low and clear. They're pulling out, and it's going to be low, don't get me wrong, but it's going to have stuff that they can hide in. Okay? That's important. They're going to get in here, and they're going to hide in all this rock and stuff all down through here. This is the tail end of a flat. So this is your flat coming down through here, and this is the tail end of it. And this is a great, fantastic, awesome, you guys out there, topwater bite right here. This is it. This is one of your greatest topwater places, and Zoom Super Flukes and spinnerbaits. It's all moving baits. It's none of this dragging a tube or anything. This is where you're going to catch them moving big time. So you got that nice chunk rock. You can drift down the river. You can work it right and left or up and down. And it's going to be a pretty good area. But even within that area, you're going to find areas that are even better. There's going to be certain spots where they're really stacked up because the rocks is you got better chunk rock. It's perfect chunk rock, and there's every kind of bait. There's crayfish and shad or whatever kind of minnows and everything all trapped in there. They're all like around it. So it might be over here, might be in the middle of the river, might be over here. It might have something to do with the first mate, a break going through the ledge, how the current's funneling through there. It might have something to do with that. I can tell you it's hell to get through this one with your boat. You got to kind of back it down. You're backing down. If you want to get through, you kind of back down, and then you might bump, and then you kind of try to pull the nose over like that, and then you're backing down, you try to get yourself over this way, and it's a nightmare to get through this ledge. So that's what you're kind of looking for, is this to get to see this kind of chunk rock, because it's still kind of got some ledges in there, but there's a lot of chunk rock mixed in with it. And it's right at the tail end where it tails up out. Trout fishermen? Anybody trout fish? Okay. Tail ends of the pools. Sometimes they're like down there right at the tail end where you catch them on the tail end of the pool. There's fish in the middle and there's fish in the top. This is exactly what we're talking about. Reading that water, but on a bigger scale. You got the top. This is the top starting the next event. This is the top right here. Then you got ledges. Then you got grass flats and gravel in the middle. And then you got, where it's going to come back up, you got boulders and rock and broken down stuff, and start some ledges to where you go to the next event. So it happens over and over and over on the river. This is where we're going to throw, and I love it, man, walking baits. All your different size walking baits. We throw the Mega Bass. This is called the, what's wrong with me? This is called the Dog X. All right. And I can't believe I forgot that name because this thing's been so good to me. But anyway, you got, so everybody knows the Czar Spook, right?
Yep.
The Czar Spook is the greatest bait, and trust me, you can come down here with a Czar Spook and do very, very well. This bait right here, the only thing I can figure it does different is it walks also, but when it walks, it rolls over, flashes aside, and stands up, and then rolls over this way, flashes aside, and stands up. So it flashes, 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 and it kind of does this, you know, this walking the dog where it's over like this, over like that, where a Czar Spook just stands right on its end, on the back axis of the back part of the bait, and just walks the dog very easily. It's the only thing I can think. I watched it intensely. I tried to figure out why I want to spend that kind of money on one, and I have a bunch of them now because it's just, it proved it to me over and over. It's called a Mega Bass Giant Dog X, or yeah, Giant Dog X.
How much you charge for it?
They're 20 bucks, 22. They're not cheap, but it's top water, so you know you're not gonna. It's not like something you're gonna snag up all the time and lose it. But I think the reason why this thing works so well is that roll of that bait. But here's a bait you can cast. Another thing is they're tail weighted. You can cast them 100 miles. You can cast them real far. You can cover all this water. You can walk the bait really nice coming across that. So you can throw it out. You can walk, and you can bring it, like we said, on that swing, but it's a horizontal swing across the river. The boat's over here, we're throwing like this, and we're bringing that bait on a walk straight back across the river. That's good on these ledges like this. There's also other small little ledges under the water here, but those ledges are real compact, they're real busted down. You know, there's all kinds of chunk rock in here. This is fantastic. This is really, really good. A lot of those ledges around the Montgomery Ferry area. A lot of this.
What is your water depth in there, your average water depth?
You're bumping the bottom here and there.
With your boat?
Yeah, so you're fishing in 2 to 4 feet of water, and you're bouncing, and you're bumping, you're constantly bumping in here. You're constantly bumping in there. You know, you're always kind of going down, and the guy in the back, hey, Jimmy, watch this rock here. You know, you pull over, and you're drifting a little bit, and you're working, hey, watch this rock back here. You're always, somebody's always telling you there's a bunch of rocks right in here, okay? So, but it's so good because there's so many nooks and crannies for these fish to hide in and the bait to hide in, and it just attaches a bunch of fish. In the summertime, you know, they want to be near oxygen, so they got oxygen right here. They can get oxygen by dropping down through here. There's, you know, there's just a lot of food. They want to be near the food. It doesn't have to be deep. I mean, it's different.
What about when the water temperature goes up? Are they still won't be in there?
I caught a mare when it was, you know, in the 80s already. Now, after that, they're there, but they go, during the day, they really go dormant, you know, when the sun's up high, you know, when it's like 80, 84, 85 degrees, you know, really super warm, you know, and maybe 88, you're seeing 88 or something like that, really crazy. This, you know, is early morning, late in the afternoon. And you'll even notice this, you know, there's times where you can catch them all day on the top water, and I've done it many, many times. So make sure you throw it all day. But, you know, the morning and evening bite will come back, you know. So say you catch them good in the morning and nothing really happens on the top water for a while. You catch a fish here and there on it. But it all comes back in the afternoon. Afternoon, evening, things will come back, you know. You'll get another bite. But I've caught some of my best catches. I tell this all the time to guys. Some of my best topwater catches, it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, I'm telling you, you know, unbelievable catches. So make sure you throw it all day. It's not a morning thing. It's not an afternoon thing. You might not catch as many as you did first thing in the morning, but I promise you, if there's big fish down here, and this is big fish spots, okay? This is, I mean, there's not many, there's 12 inchers and stuff down here. These are big fish spots. And on the ledges, that's the big fish spots, okay? Which is kind of how I started this thing, you know, with catching the 12 inches. Kind of you can do that all over. 12 inches will be all out in here, kind of all around in here. Just drifting, you'll catch those. But those big fish, man, they go to where the food is. And on those ledges, the food goes to them. And on the flats, the food comes to them, or they go to the food, and that's what they did here. They went to the food here. That's why you start catching big fish down in here. August, July, August, September, this is all good. Those ledges, July, August, September, October. George will talking about October ledges. ledges all the time. I like them in the summertime, specifically myself. So this is, any questions on what this is right here? Does everybody understand that? This is important. This is great. This is like super, super great right here.
It's just like that at ferry boat campground.
Exactly. Exactly. That is, this isn't ferry boat campground, but this is in spitting distance of it. That's why I drew right there. Very close to that. Yes, sir.
Can you wade out there?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is the greatest wading area, you know, for a wader, is that type of structure. The other ones you can't, like the main ledge stuff, you know, it's hard to do. But this stuff right here, you're banging the bottom. I mean, it's 2, 3, 4 feet. You know, the worst, you're gonna go like this. If you don't want to do that, you just walk up a little bit and come around it. You know, so this is where you want to be for wading. Absolutely. This is great.
Hey, Mike,
Yes.
for topwater walking baits,
Yeah.
what colors do you prefer?
So we fish like you know something that's just a shad pattern. You know, so for me it's something flashy on the side, like a darker back, green back with a flash on the side. I fish the Tennessee shad. It's the Ito Tennessee shad. So ITO is different than the GP. A GP is the one that you can see through. Like this is a GP color. You can see more of the. See how you see the weights and everything in there. That's what the GP is. ITO is more of your scaly kind of patterns. You know, so you want that flash, a little bit more flash on the top waters. So Czar Spooks, which we all have them. I have a million of them. Believe it or not, black is one of my better ones. And another good one that I do with is the chrome and black. The chrome, you know, nice flashy chrome and black one I like to throw in the Czar Spook.
I got some Hedrons.
What's that?
I think they're called Hedrons.
Heddens. Heddens Czar Spook.
Yeah.
That's the Czar Spook.
Okay.
That's the original walking bait. And still to this day we throw them. Now you got some cool colors out. You got the Super Spook and the Super Spook Junior. Super Spook is more, George will get into that. In the summertime you don't want to throw giant, humongous ones. Which I don't know, but here it is. Like, I'll throw, that's about as big as I'm going to throw in the summer. Okay? So that's almost the size of a Super Spook. It's just fuzz hair smaller than a Super Spook. But this is my size. A 4-inch bait is the size I like. And if, you know what? You know what's funny about that? There's my fluke. See that? So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing kind of that. The other thing I like to throw, and I know Corbin talked a little bit about it, is to splash it. I thought he had one here. Don Iovino splash it right here, but it's not the color. Right here, the color. Here it is. Right there. Don Iovino splash it, little popper. Fantastic in the summertime. Absolute killer.
What is it called?
Don Iovino splash it. Now, there's a million of them out there. There's the Strike King Splash Bait. There's a Dead Nuts copy of this. Yellow Magic. Yes, sir.
What about the old Arbigas?
You side direct or use swivel?
Okay, that's a great question. Fantastic question. So how would you do it?
When I type direct, unfortunately, I get a lot of the twists in the line.
Okay. So for years, I thought that the best way to fish this was on a split ring. Okay? So, because the bait I thought would do this. I was totally wrong on that. Always tie direct to the eye of the hook without a split ring on poppers. Okay? And what you'll get is a better walk. So when you're popping a bait, okay? So let's talk walking. Walking a dog is when the bait goes across the surface like this. Okay? That, for whatever reason, is what you want to mimic. And everything that you throw is the walking the dog effect. It triggers more strikes than any other straight popper or anything on a surface. A buzz bait does pretty decent because of the noise, but it doesn't trigger as many bites as walking the dog. So we try to walk the dog with everything that we throw, you know, and that's important. So the fluke, when you're working the fluke, It's a little bit more erratic, but it's walking the dog under the water. The walking baits is on the surface. We're walking them on the surface. Now poppers, which a lot of people pop, 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 let it set. Pop, 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 let it set. That will work, but I promise you, if you just tie direct to that knot and you get that bait to walk by snapping your rod tip down on the water like that, working your bait like this, you will get the bait to walk through the water. You will absolutely won't believe the difference between the pop, pop, pause and their straight popping of a walking the dog effect. It's absolutely amazing.
You're not moving the clip. There's split ring.
Yeah, the split ring, you don't want that on there.
You
Just
gotta
tie,
move.
yeah.
You lose
Well, I always
motion.
thought it would swing, but it doesn't. The line is actually making it pull. The slack line. Okay, so walking the dog for people who haven't been doing it, it's very important to leave slack in your line. You're not trying to twitch the bait. You're twitching the slack in your line. So the line where it hits the water, when you're snapping your rod tip, that's what you're trying to snap. You're trying to get that to just jump. If you're too tight to the bait, it's not walking. Okay? You need enough slack to let the line pull it in that direction. The line's what's pulling it. After you pull it, that line pulls it and then pulls it over. Pulls it and then pulls it over. So you got to have slack in your line. If you're not walking your bait and it's not walking for you, you're too tight on your line. Leave more slack in there and snap the slack. Pop, 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 and then your slack will be there in the water. Yes, sir.
You like mono for top water?
Monofilament for top water and braid.
I was gonna say braid.
More slack in the braid.
What's that?
Get more slack in the braid.
Yeah, you get a lot nice slack in the braid, and there's a lot of arguments there about that. But whether to go braid or mono, the mono for sure. You can't do fluorocarbon because it sinks. Yes, sir.
Rod length for zero spook?
So most of the time I'm fishing a 7-foot rod. There's a couple times where I go 7-1, or I like a 6'6", 6'6", 6'8", you know. But I need a medium heavy. You need a medium heavy. Nice thing about a 7-footer, you can get that real long cast out of it. Because look, this is all 1 and 2 foot of water, so fish know you're there by the pressure of the boat in the water. You know, when you're coming along there, they feel the pressure well before you're there. So making these long casts out through here and working them baits across there, that's going to be a big thing for you. That's a huge player. And this is where the visual fishing comes in. You know, throwing the popper, trying to get the popper to walk. You know, this is an underwater boulder. Right? It's not out of the water, but it's under the water. It's that big. I can see that with my glasses. So I want to get that popper to go over that. I want to make sure that I walk my popper right over top of that. You know, so it's a lot of visual fishing. It's kind of cool. You know, and you're kind of anticipating. You're like, all right, man, he ought to any time now. Well, yeah, you know, that's the excitement of it. You know, so you know, it's a lot of visual stuff going on here. A lot of visual fishing here, as well as your ledges.
Mike,
Yes, sir.
what type of knot do you use for a popper and a walking bait?
I use polymer knot for 99.9% of everything I do.
You don't
Yep.
use a loop knot?
No, I don't use a loop knot because I did the split ring and the loop knots for the ones that I didn't have split rings on. I was so misinformed. It was unbelievable. I apologize to you guys if I ever told you to put split rings on your top waters because I was wrong. I mean, I was dead nuts wrong. I had some pretty knowledgeable people tell me what I was doing wrong.
Yeah.
You know, I was fortunate enough to be with the right people to show me.
Will you buy back all the split rings?
I feel that guilty. I'll take them back. I tell you, that's it. I learn something every single day. Try to anyway. Every time I'm out, I try to learn something new. And I was talking to this guy, you know, and he told me, he said, man, this is what you got to do. Don't put split rings on her. Tie direct. And once I did, it was amazing. And my brother and I, we go back and forth on braid and mono. And braid lays real nice on the water, and you get some real nice slack in that. And it's very easy to walk a bait with braid. The problem is when you get a bite, what's the first thing? You get panic, first of all, and you're, oh my God, you know, you set the hook, and you pull, it's so fast that you don't have anything built into that. You pull the hooks right out of their mouth. Or, like my brother was was fishing splashets on a 7-foot bait caster and 50-pound braid on there. Just one of the things they were talking about, and they wanted to try it. So he fell in love with it. But when he first started doing it, man, he was and they were coming off right away because he was pulling so hard that, you know, a lot of times they're just getting it on the outside of their face or in their lip. They're pulling the hooks right. He's pulling the hooks right out of their mouth. So once he learned to just tighten up and then, you know, take your time with it, he was fine. You know, so when do you throw a popper over a walking bait? That's a question. So when would I throw this over this?
More wind.
I don't really have a good question for that because when I go fishing this time of year and this, you know, the time that we're talking about, I always have one of these tied on and I always have one of these tied on. So basically for me is what they're biting on. Did I get any bites on this one? Did I get any bites on this one? So throughout the day, I find these to change. Does that make sense? So I'm catching them on the popper in the morning, and then maybe in the afternoon I catch them on this, and I go back to the popper in the evening, or vice versa. I catch them on the walking bait in the morning, I go to the popper in the afternoon, and then I go back to the walking bait in the evening. It just happens. It changes up. You know, if I'm not getting bites, these are tied on all the time. I never take them off, and that's the truth. I'm not lying to you guys at all. This is tied on 3 things. Tied on all the time. Never take them off. They're on all the time. And this is, with these 3 baits right here, you know, you can catch fish in the summer. You don't need anything else. You can catch them everywhere, you know. Now, there's other baits that you want to try, and you know, but with these 3 right here, I always throw these. I throw them throughout the day. I change on and off all day long. I never stop throwing top water throughout the day. And I never stop covering these. I never stop covering the ledges. I'm always moving. I'm always fishing them. And I hope you understand this because this is important to how to fish them. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So you don't find props very good for that? You're better off with walking poppers? Is that what you're saying?
Props?
Yeah, prop baits. The prop top water.
No, no, I'm fine with the props. Yeah, no, I'm fine with the props. No, I like prop baits. I don't have any here, but I like a dual prop when the water is extremely windy. I'll put a dual prop on there, snap, 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 you know, creating a lot of movement, a lot of stuff. I really like a prop bait for that. I fish a prop bait a lot, you know, I do. I'm talking about my absolute go-to 3 things. You know, I have a whole box full of these things up here, but these baits are my absolute go-tos, or what I do right here. And everybody has their favorite. You know, here's another one, stupid thing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, crazy bites on this thing. What the hell would eat that? I mean, come on.
That's the only one.
Absolute vicious blow-ups on this. I use this a lot around the grass beds, which I'm going to get to next. I use this a lot around grass beds, and I use this a lot around isolated rocks. Like when I'm down in here just fishing around one rock, I'll throw this out and you know, it does one of these like that, coming through the water, you know, some stupid little movement like that. Absolutely ferocious. Now, this is the smaller one. I never had the smaller one until last year. I always fished the big one, and they ate it. Big one's like this Godzilla thing that I throw through the water, and they eat it. So this one here is great. They're going to catch fish on that. I won $50,000 on this one right here, and I consider this a top water lure. It's a wig bait. I throw it out. I bring it through the water. The prop is the last thing on the surface that puts a bubble line out there, and it goes like this through the water. Look at that movement. That's the way that thing goes through the water. What's that remind you of? Walking a dog. This bait does it really great. Walks the dog with the tail. And it's a wake bait. I fish it as a wake bait. Yeah, that was really good to me already. Huh? Yeah, well, you can see it. You can see it split out at the back. I don't even know if I've thrown this because it's split out. I don't know. Does anybody have problems with their backs of their baits splitting out? You getting a lot of them, or?
Yeah.
Are you? Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I have a couple. I don't say it's rampant.
brand?
That's the thing. This is an IMA. This is a Japanese bait. But I have bait guys that bring all kinds of different ones. couple strikings here and there, but I don't think it's getting worse. I just think it does happen. I don't know what really causing it.
In the rock.
I think it's more like heat gets in there maybe and expands it or something, or cold, going from hot to cold. I don't know. It's this one here, that one here, I think I shed a tear every when that thing split out the back right there. Okay, so let's see where we're at here. Hang on here. Okay, I got a couple more minutes here real quick, because I want to talk about these grass beds right here. Let's get talking about it, he says. We're going to get talking about this right now. The current's coming in this direction, okay? So this is your dead pocket. Okay, this is all dead water right in here.
Yeah.
This is all dead water right in here.
Yeah.
Current's coming down through here like this. Current's coming down through here like this. You still got current along the sides, dead pocket right in here. Okay, right? Everybody understand how it happens with the current?
Yeah.
This is where the fish are in the spring. Right here.
Right spring on it.
Okay? All right? This is where they are in the summer, is along the side. I'll write summer on there.
Where the hell did you get your t-shirt, Greg?
Is along the sides, right here and right here, where the current is. The biggest fish, you guys heard me say this before, is on the head. Right there, and right there.
You're right, that's where I caught the big fish.
You'll catch the most biggest and giant fish. I'm telling you guys, pay attention to that right there. That's serious. This right here is your spot. Now, right here. So, what does that mean? That's the push. Okay, that's the push. That's where the current comes down, hits the structure, has to decide to go right or left. And there's one spot that doesn't know what to do. That's the push. Okay? Now, the visual push is at the part you can see. But don't forget, that goes under the water and runs to the front, upriver. So there's a section of that grass bed that's under the water you're not seeing, or you kind of can see the shadow of it. So that push can be all the way out to where the grass hits and gathers on the bottom first. Okay? Because the root ball is what's holding the gravel in place. Everything around it is getting pushed out by the current over years. So there's a little pocket, little thing down in there, like a little ditch at the very front of that. That is a dead spot for a big fish to lay, or that super push where there's no current. It goes this way, it goes that way. They can sit in it. So they can sit in it up top here, where you see it. They can slide all the way down to the front of it to where it meets the bottom down here. Okay? This is where you catch your big ones. This is where tournaments are won. Right there. Or just off to the sides of them here and right here. Now, the other part that you want to pay attention to is the sides with the current on them. You always want to fish the sides with the current on them. Here, 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 and here. The sides with the current. Very seldom are you going to catch them back here in the summertime. Very, very seldom. If you do, it's usually a 12-incher.
Where do you position your boat?
So my boat is the same thing. It's the same problem, is controlling it. So I want to come down with my boat. I think it was better over here one night. I want to come down with my boat and put my boat coming down in this. I'm actually drifting in this direction. So I'm making my cast to hit this. I'm making my cast here. I might catch it right when it hits the water here. But don't forget that push can come all the way up to here, but down deeper, depending on the type of day. Depending on the type of day that they're in, whether they're real aggressive in the morning when they're on top of the surface, or in the afternoon when they're on the bottom. Now, I've caught them on tubes right there, giants. Caught them on crankbaits right there. I caught them on spinnerbaits right there. I've caught them on topwaters. More so up on here. But that's a great spot to throw a topwater and all those baits. And seems like when they're on that, man, you can kind of bounce from grass bed to grass bed to grass bed, and you'll catch them. You catch a lot of big fish. And you guys always hear me talking about the push. I always fish the push. It's very, 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 very important in the summertime to fish that push. Huh?
And a fluke's good for that, right?
Oh, absolutely. Money. Fluke's money. I throw fluke all the time. That's guaranteed.
That's funny you talk about that, because I caught a over 5 pound largemouth last year. Exact same thing, right on the
Yeah.
tip of the
Yeah.
grass.
Well, it's the same thing when you're like down the Potomac River fishing the grass beds down there and you see the grass coming down a straight line, all of a sudden it kicks out like that, makes a little point and goes back in like that. Well, that point right there, trust me, if on that 50-yard stretch of grass, 90% of the time, that little point right there is where you're going to catch that fish because it's a change in what's going on. It's a change in something. This is a change in the bottom. It's all regular gravel bottom, and all of a sudden it comes this root ball, and the water has to go right or left and makes this change. And that's all those changes is where you're going to get those big fish. Yes, sir.
What about the eelgrass, like down by Goldsboro? I mean, is it in there much? in the
Okay.
summer, or-
I am not the man to talk to you about eelgrass. I fish it, you know. Corbin's the guy you want to talk to about eelgrass. He and eelgrass have some kind of a connection. I don't know what it is. He can absolutely smoke him in eelgrass, and he knows exactly what he's doing in eelgrass. My thing with eelgrass is that I'll fish the eelgrass that's coming. Like you'll get eelgrass here. You know, you get these patches of eelgrass here. So this is grass beds on certain set. You know, this is that one event to the next event. Okay, so you got ledges, grass, and then the flat, and then the bottom of the bottom of the flat right here. So in the middle part of that flat, or just starting on this, you'll get these eelgrass. I can catch them in that, but when it's like a big, giant, massive thing of eelgrass, I mean, I fish it and I catch them out of there, but I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just catching them. I'm just whaling it. You know, I'm just whaling. You know. Whatever. That's kind of what I'm doing.
Now, what do you mean by eelgrass? Is that the stuff that's like matty?
Eelgrass grows from the bottom,
Yeah.
and it's the long strips, looks like long grass, but they're real long strips like this.
And about a half-inch wide.
Half-inch wide, okay? These grass beds are a rooted, it's a rooted grass that has a hard stalk to it.
Okay.
And then in the summertime, you see them all out in the river. In the summertime, they turn green. You have these little green patches.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I'm talking. I'm talking about when these are all flush green is when we're fishing them
Or
in
like
the
the
summer.
Scrub Island.
Well, the scrubs are different even, but that's absolutely. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking of saying. They have root balls that hold everything in place. Hydrilla and milfoil don't hold like this stuff does. So that stuff is more like eelgrass. It's a rooted grass, but it can be pulled out of the water by ice, by heavy floods. This stuff here you can't pull out. Its stalks are about as big as your right now they're about that big, and you throw anything into them,
So
and
the
it instantly.
eelgrass is like between Hill Island and
Yeah.
Westport.
Yeah,
Like you see, it looks like grass underwater.
Hill Island and 3 Mile Island, that big flat out there, that's all eelgrass. A little bit of milfoil mixed in there.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
catch the heck out of
A
them.
little bit of milfoil, and then if you go down the river, it's all eelgrass and milfoil down the river, which is, you know, I don't know if Corbin didn't tell you about that for the spring. I guarantee you, because that's his little
Yeah, they
secret.
call that largemouth.
Huh?
They call it largemouth valley down there.
Well, let's ask that guy right there, man.
We did, we killed them right here.
Yeah.
I don't mean to tell you that they kill them. I mean, like 5 fish for over 26 pounds. Now I saw the pictures. These are so do the math. That's 5 to 7 pounders. I saw them. I was like,
Yeah, we had a good time.
I don't know how special a day you guys, if you know just how special a day you had there, but
It was a lifetime.
you can't right it was, man. Giants there.
On this type of grass, could you pitch into it?
So no, because it's a root ball, okay, you're fishing the edges of it. So you're fishing the eroded part of the island. So because this doesn't have roots out here, this erodes, so it comes out and straight off drop. So your drop might be 6 inches, or it might even be that. On the back of these things, back in here where they spawn, this is where they spawn right here, where they are in the springtime, getting ready to spawn. It might be a 4-foot drop because the water's in there doing the hydraulics, and it's just rotor-rooting it all out, you know. So it's good, clean gravel behind it because it's all rotor-rooted out, and there's water going through it. But by the time the summer comes, there's very little water coming through the islands, these grass beds, very little.
Those are the ones that are out of the water.
They're not out of the water any other time than in the summer.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so they're not the scrub islands like some gentleman said back here. That's a little bit different than the scrub island. Scrub island actually has bushes that'll grow on it and have the reed sides to it, and still have water coming through it on a high water event. Okay, the reason that the water's going through it right now is because there's no vegetation on it. It's all dead. It fell off. All that's left is the stalk, which is about 4 to 6 inches tall, and that's the part that everybody's upset about, because that's where you hang up all the time, is on those things. Now, in the summertime, say you get that rain, it rains for a week or whatever, and the river goes from 3.5 feet up to 5 feet. 5 feet, the fish will go in the grass, in these right here. And what's cool about that is it actually makes like little ponds will kind of form in here, dead pocket ponds that the water kind of got up into. Topwater buzzbait city, or flipping. Corbin's jig. You know, I can't tell you how many times he caught him in that jig in those high water events when the grass or the green plant itself is there and the water comes over top of it. It creates all kinds of good current breaks in there, and those fish that were on the outside just right into the inside. So that summertime, the only time we throw on the inside is when the water goes up. Then we'll actually use that as a great current break, great structure. It's a great pattern to do after a thunderstorm. Another thing that this does here, you'll see clearer water here than you will coming to the side of it, because the grass slows the water down and the sediment filters out of it. Man, I want to tell you so much stuff. I'm running out of time here about that, because that's really important. Filtering of the water and the little where you can find clear spots and clean spots. That's another time we're going to do that. Okay, well, I promise you we'll do that another time. Yes,
So
sir.
you used your top 3 baits for this fishing then? Your go-to baits that you talked about?
I'm going to top water it. I'm going to zoom super fluke it. Seems like on the grass beds I do better too with a spinnerbait too. That's where my spinnerbait thing kicks in really well. Dirty stained water, you cannot beat a gold shiner. Got to have it in your box. Must have. The other one that you would throw is a shad color, white, gold blades. Gold blades for me. Now there's guys who do well with silver blades, or if you're familiar with these blades that have the flash on them, it's a gold blade but it had a lot of silver flash on it. That's a really good blade for me too. Right here. And gold shiner. Right there. Gold shiner is your dirty water. So you get a dirty water episode or cloudy or rainy days, throw the gold shiner. And then white everything else. Yes, sir.
Joe Mulhern just texted me. He wants to know what your $50,000 bait was.
Oh, my $50,000 Joe. Joe, how you doing, bud? Just for you, I'm going to tell you this. This is the IMA. What is it?
Is that the rumba or whatever they call it?
No, it's not a rumba.
Oh, stuffed monkey.
Huh? Yes, it is. Hang on. I call it the bluegill killer is what I call it. Hey, George, what's this? What is that? What is
What'd you like to know?
He said he wanted $50,000, but he can't remember the name.
He did. I got $20 a case of beer out of that deal. Depp's BuzzJet.
BuzzJet Junior. Depp's BuzzJet Junior. They got the big version too. They make one that's really big, but that's the bluegill color. That's the one I did it in right there. Right there.
Wind her up.
Oh yeah, we are. We're getting to the bottom of it. So yeah, good question, man. Thanks a lot. Good question. So, you understand? Yeah, I went more. Yes, sir. So I throw 3/8 ounce and 1/2 ounce. Probably. Now this is only July, August, and September. Just maybe the start of that, I'll throw a 1/4 ounce, but I'll put a 1/8 ounce clip weight on it, because all I'm doing is trying to get a smaller profile. It's all on the bait fish. So think about, a bait bait is born in May and June, right? So it starts to grow. So through June, you know, the first part of June, you got fry like this. Towards the end of June, it's starting to grow. So I'm trying to match my blade size to the size of the bait. Okay, so that would be 2 number 4s. You know what I mean? On a 1/4 ounce, it'd be give me 2 or a 3.5 and a 4. That type of flash. Just soon after that, that bait in July and August, it starts to grow a little bit more. Well, that's where you want to go double 4s or 4.5s, double 4.5s, because you're getting that better flash out of that. And you know, this cast is all the same. You know, it's really neat. You don't have to be real accurate when you're fishing the spinnerbait or any of these baits, other than making sure that we, you know, as long as you hit somewhere here, you can bring out across that by working the bait.
Now, for the smaller spinnerbait, would that Molex one be good?
Absolutely. There's a ton of blades out there, like the Molexes, which is cool. Is just much more compact, but it has that heavier head. So it's all compact, got the smaller blades and everything built into it. They asked us what we wanted to see out of their company. We told them. We said we want to see a compact, small spinnerbait, and that's what they made for us. So, you know, and it's a cool spinnerbait. Some of the colors are weird, but they're kind of unique. We fished all of them. They make a cool china that's nice, and they make their shad patterns are nice. They make a dirty water, the black one with black blades is nice. So they make some good colors. But you know, other than crazy colors, if you stick with your shad colors, you know, even chartreuse and white or white, gold blades, and then the gold shiner kind of mixed in there, you're gonna catch them. Yes, sir.